Why Jason Momoa's FastXVillain kept me from completely abandoning the franchise. The Fast and Furious franchise has continued to see diminishing results over the past several entries. But it was Jason Momoa's incredible villain turn in Fast X that kept me from completely abandoning the action franchise altogether. Given how absurd Fast and Furious has become as a series, it's remarkable that it started out relatively low-key, a turn of the millennium film revolving around street racers who are attempting to hijack electronic equipment from trucks. By F9, the Fast crew is going into space. Fast X isn't a particularly great movie, but it features one of the best villains in the entire Fast and Furious franchise, Dante Reyes, played by Jason Momoa. In fact, his performance is one of the highlights of the Fast and Furious franchise as a whole, creating a villain that marches to the beat of his own drum, separating himself from the plethora of villains that came before. He is a revelation in Fast X, and deserves to be recognized among the greats in the franchise. The Fast and Furious franchise has largely been marked by the hypermasculinity of its villains, pushing our car-driving heroes to the brink throughout each increasingly bonkers installment. For the 11th film in the Fast and Furious franchise, Fast X tries something a little bit different, enlisting the talent of Jason Momoa to play a much different type of villain than what came before, compared to villains like the Shaw brothers or Herman Reyes. Momoa's Dante Reyes is much more out there in terms of mannerisms, flamboyantly strutting through each scene with reckless glee. Momoa is a big man, routinely playing very cool characters in blockbuster action films. He still remains cool in Fast X as Dante Reyes, but he is also channeling just how funny he is as an actor, chewing up every scene with impeccable comedic timing and not being concerned with how silly he might be coming across at any given moment. Dante Reyes is flamboyant. He likes to paint his nails lavender and pink, and wears his hair in space buns every once in a while. It is a much-needed change of pace compared to the self-serious villains of previous entries, and it works so well because of how talented Momoa is. When Jason Momoa is allowed to run loose with a character, he embraces it 100%, and his role as Dante Reyes is easily the most out there he has ever been as an actor. It is clear that Momoa is having the time of his life in Fast X, realizing just how fun these movies can be when they don't have to take themselves so seriously. In fact, it's possible that Momoa is the only actor in the film who knows just how silly the franchise has become, and it feels like he approaches his character with that knowledge. Jason Momoa being so over the top compared to almost everyone else in the movie is what makes his performance so good. Actually, he certainly feels that way to me, as Momoa is easily my favorite villain in the franchise despite not necessarily caring for the film as a whole, and even where the franchise has ended up. Even so, Momoa being so over the top compared to almost everyone else in the movie is what makes his performance so good, actually. Perhaps it is because it was his only appearance in the Fast and Furious franchise, but Momoa feels like he genuinely loves being there, compared with the weariness other actors carry themselves within the later entries. After being in other major franchises like Game of Thrones and the DCU, it felt like it was only a matter of time before Jason Momoa would appear in a Fast and Furious movie, given how much he physically feels like he fits right into that masculine world. In an interview with Rotten Tomatoes, Momoa claimed that Dante Reyes was probably the funnest role I've ever played. This definitely comes across during every scene he has in Fast X, truly setting himself apart from other villains in the franchise and even most of the other characters he has played in his career.